Hi, I'm Stephen Brobst. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Teradata Corporation. We provide a open and connected platform for data and advanced analytics, specifically related to deployment of artificial intelligence. Thank you very much for having me as the chief guest for this very important conference. I'm going to give a very brief introduction on the role of artificial intelligence in process automation. We are in the middle of a revolution of information and how to use information in order to improve processes with more efficiency, more quality, and more throughput. And when I talk to chief information officers for companies across, all industries, there's a huge interest in artificial intelligence. In fact, Gartner would tell you that AI is a top 5 investment priority for more than 30% of CIOs. In the discussions that I have with the clients that I work with within Pakistan, I would say actually it's probably a top 3 investment priority for more than 70% of the CIOs. So the interest in this area is very, very strong. Now, one of the problems that we have in the industry is there's a huge amount of hype. So in this graph, which is a stylized depiction of the hype cycle from Alex Linden out of Gartner, what you see is as new technology gets introduced, it climbs the hype cycle. So the vendors are hyping, the consultants are hyping, and the expectations of the technology keeps increasing, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And as you see in this diagram, artificial intelligence is, off the ski slopes. At the top is what's referred to as the peak of overinflated expectations. And artificial intelligence has gone beyond the traditional peak. The hype is very, very large. Now, the problem that we have as an industry is that when the hype gets too high, the crash becomes much harder. So down at the bottom, for example, where you see big data, this is what's called the trough of disillusionment, where people start to understand, hey, those vendors, the consultants, they made all these promises to me, and they didn't keep the promises. Not all the things that they said were actually true. And this is inevitable because people get so excited about the new technology. They think it's going to do everything for them. They think it's going to bring them coffee in the morning. And of course, no technology does everything. As we mature, we then progress to what's called the plateau of productivity, where the technology gets reset in terms of expectations. We understand what are the appropriate use cases, and then we can deploy in an effective way. My goal in this discussion is to help you understand, what does that plateau of productivity look like? Let's get beyond the hype and let's talk about what are the sort of practical expectations for artificial intelligence in process automation. Now, AI has some incredible superpowers. With AI technologies, we can derive insight from more data than any human could possibly understand. And we can do it much faster than humans. We learn faster than humans, and we can deal with high dimensionality of the data. Humans generally don't do well beyond 3 dimensions of understanding of analysis. But the AI superpowers allow me to see many, many dimensions and allow me to, with AI technologies, understand how to deal with data quality issues and outliers in a much more effective way than human capabilities typically offer. So these AI superpowers are very, very important. Now, artificial intelligence has, many different interpretations and definitions. In fact, one of the problems in the industry is the primary source of information about AI for most individuals out on the street is Hollywood, and it's not a very reliable source of information. And one way to sort of define artificial intelligence is machines that think. But the reality is machines don't think. Even though you might be using ChatGPT and you might be having conversations with the AI software, the reality is it doesn't really understand the meaning of what it's delivering in terms of content. It's a stochastic parrot. It can sort of replicate phrases derived from previous conversations, previous texts, but machines can't think. So Alan Turing, who's an English mathematician who passed away many years ago, he has a more interesting variation on the question of defining AI. Not can machines think, but can machines do what we as thinking entities, as humans, can do? And the answer to that is yes, sometimes. And this is where RPA, or robotic process automation, starts to become interesting, because with RPA, we can definitely do some things that humans can do. And I'm going to make a bold statement, and I'm going to suggest that any decision that a human can make in 5 seconds or less will in the future be made by a piece of AI software. So if that decision is based on a narrow domain, and it doesn't require a lot of creativity or strategic thinking, the AI software will be able to make that decision. And the example that I like to give in this regard is driving a car. When you're driving a car down the street, the decisions you make to change lanes, put on your blinker, put your foot on the brake, those decisions are almost always made in 5 seconds or less. And I'm going to suggest to you that in the future, automobiles will be driven by AI software, not by humans. And for me, this is a wonderful thing. I will tell you that I recently taught my nephew how to drive, and that experience told me that humans shouldn't be allowed to drive. He made the same mistakes that I made when I was 16, and I made the same mistakes that my father made when he was 16 learning how to drive. And the reality is that AI software just learns in a much more robust way, as long as the domain is very narrow, than humans, because there's memory, and we don't have to make the same mistakes that humans make each time for themselves. We can learn from all the experience and embed that into the knowledge base of the AI software. So when you think about process automation and you think about decisions that are being made by humans in 5 seconds or less, those will largely be made by AI software in the future. So how are we going to be successful with this AI software? It's important to understand that broad AI solutions, in other words, the ability to solve, a wide range of problems, with generalized ability to reason and think, is very far away, very far away. But narrow AI solutions, or called NAI solutions, are here today. And these have emerged as useful and valuable capabilities of AI for creating value today. And we can use this technology for targeted use cases and automate the decision-making process. And that, again, leads to more efficiencies, lower cost, higher quality, faster delivery of results. All these things are very important to our businesses. So don't think of AI as an all-thinking software entity that's going to be able to develop strategies and do creative thinking. That is not the case. But what is the case is that if we can narrow the domain for very specific decisions, then we can automate those processes. Now, I think it's important to understand that when we define AI, artificial intelligence, this is kind of a hype term. AI means many, many different things. I think it's more interesting to talk about what is AI as automated intelligence versus augmented intelligence. So automated intelligence means that you can completely disintermediate the human decision maker. And there are a class of things that you can do to disintermediate human decision makers, like driving an automobile and certain classes of robotic process automation. But if you were developing strategies, if you're doing analysis, I would argue that using AI by itself to automate is probably not the best strategy. That augmented intelligence, where the human and the AI work together, is going to be much, much more effective. So Jerry Kaplan, who is a futurist, an author, a computer scientist, he has this quote that I like, that AI does not put people out of business, it puts skills out of business. So certain low value added things, which don't require a lot of deep knowledge, do not really require a knowledge worker with human understanding to participate, we're going to automate those things. And RPA will do a lot of that. And this is important. This will lead to productivity improvements, depending on the domain that you're working in, probably between 40 and 50%. So this is absolutely huge. But is AI going to put CFOs out of business? And the answer is no. This quote from Harvard Business Review back in 2017, I think characterizes the situation very well. Over the next decade, and we're still within that decade, AI won't replace CFOs, but CFOs who use AI will replace those that don't. I want to leave you that as a final thought as you enjoy, I hope, and learn lots from the rest of the workshop today. And thank you very much again for having me as your chief guest.